see, we can't be in the capital. I tell you, we can't be in the capital. What we say? Hello from the capital. It don't in the heart of the carnival. It's student of bliss, I cannot erase all these memories we create from the love. Hello from the capital. It's the open. Make some noise to Patricia Watson.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Yellow Zico program on UNT USA. I have with me here Mr. Suman Singh, and as usual, our friends will join us later on in the program. So, Mr. Singh, I want to welcome you back to the program. We have quite a bit happening in Trinidad and Tobago, a lot of fetting at the same time, in a mix of crime and everything else that's taking place. We see some energy talks taking place with Dr. Munila going out to India and coming back with some good news. And, there's a lot of people coming in and out of the country on the economic side. So we've seen some progress taking place there. And I'd like to get your input on views on, how you see things moving so far on the economic side.
Gary, good night. Good night to all our listeners, and welcome aboard. Well, Gary, there are a lot of things happening. Some things are speeding along like 90 miles per hour, and some things remain as they remain. One of the
Welcome, Ken is in the house. Good, thank you.
Hey,
Welcome.
welcome, Gary. Welcome, Samat.
Right,
And all of you out there.
Right, Gary, I don't know if you're following. There's a story for the Afro-Caribbean scholarships. 3 scholarships were awarded and selected by UWI, University of the West Indies. Fortunately or unfortunately, the students were selected on merit. And according to some commentators, seeing that the name is Afro-Caribbean, how come 3 Indo-Caribbean students got it? Now, I don't know, the 3 of them are Indo. From their names, one last name is Muhammad, looks like an Indian. Another girl, she looks like an Indian. And the other one could be mixed. His last name is Samson. And there seem to be, how come the press and some of the commentators are branded, this is supposed to be an Afro thing. How come they have 3 Indo
Well, you know,
being selected.
depends on who the commentators are, because you know, there's some people who, no matter what you do, they will always focus on race, and their mind is bent that way. So
And the
you know,
PNM has been like that.
it depend. You know, it is always going to be, and they, as it is seen, and they always push this agenda because there's a racist cabal in the PNM who functions in race and has been very powerful in getting what they want done based on race.
Correct.
And that is not how a true democracy should function. But it was allowed to and continue to
And,
happen. And they have
and,
been able to have their way for a very long time. So they always will see something on race, not on merit. So,
and
I mean, you know, the country collapsed economically because you put people based on race and party affiliation than more than merit and qualification. But go ahead, I'm listening to you.
so this is what is showing up. We know that the PNM has nothing to stand on except their racial overtones. Nothing, nothing. And one needs to just ask the question, where was the hidden scholarship that John U. Williams, the 42 scholarships that were never advertised? Never advertised. And these were silently given to only PNM supporters. Where was that in all of the mix? You never hear none of the press.
Now, again, silently given to PNM supporters. Is it PNM supporters of all races or PNM supporters of a particular race? That's another thing we have to ask. Because
Right.
a lot of money was given for scholarship, not accounted for, not identified properly who it was given for. I mean, a lot of government money over the years. You know, that's
So,
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, let me clarify that. 98% of the scholarship winners were blacks. So you get the idea. The 42 scholarships that were given, 98% of them were blacks.
Oh, so people of Afro descent. So
Correct.
okay, so because I mean
So,
we can't say blacks
yeah,
because
I understand.
in Trinidad we Indians are black too. So
No, there were no good Indians then. Let me put it like that. There were no good Indians like your friend from Sangre Grande, Sinanan. So
that's the most honest Indian. Yeah.
yeah, the most honest and no good Indians except him. So let's go along. So how come the press did not pick up on that time? How come the PNM supporters did not say anything against it at that time? But all in a sudden, 3 scholarships that were independently selected on merit by the University of the West Indies happened to be or look like Indo-Trinidad. And 2 I can vouch for, but the third one I can't, based on the name, Samson, and some Christian name at the front. So I couldn't, make the judgment call there, but regardless of whether it is or it is not, right? UV is an independent organization. It's not like that's no John U. Williams there. This is independent, and the criteria is based on merit. So they contending that they're looking for details. Where's the transparency? Why is this thing named Afro-Caribbean and there's no Afro?
Right. Well, listen, if it's Afro-Caribbean, then it should be given to an Afro person. I wouldn't disagree with that. But why do
No,
we
but
have
they
a
claim now.
scholarship? It's not like the United States of America where you have, where you are kind of like in an outnumbered or in a predicament of discrimination.
Reservation.
Yeah,
Reservation.
yeah.
But
But in Trinidad and Tobago, there should not be anything that's designated to race in particular. I mean, I think that should be not something.
and that was correct, absolutely correct. So that's why Indos applied for it, or Indo-Trinidadians applied as well. And the organizing body said that anybody can, the committee, Afro-Caribbean, said that anybody can apply for this.
Oh,
So,
so the committee said anybody can apply. Okay.
yes. So the racist spin was what I'm trying to tell you, was what goes on there. The
No one had
racist
expected. I
spin.
mean, we've seen it. I mean, they are pushing that race agenda, no matter what good that the prime minister is doing, not what good that her government is doing. I mean, even though we have an African person as of descent as Homeland Security, Defense, and different parts of the government, we have Culture, Minister of Works, and so they always focus on that. There's kind of an ignorant state of mind which people you cannot reason with, no matter what you do, right? So there's let me tell you something. In America here, no matter how much good Obama did, he will never be good. And you've seen it
Correct.
taking place, all
So,
right? So it's the same thing in
simple like.
Trinidad. The same thing in Trinidad. No matter how much good Mrs. Bezesa does or did for the people, for certain people, she could never be good, right? So,
Right.
but anyway, go
Correct.
ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to get out of that racial overtones, so just kill it once and for all. That once there is an independent body and they make their selection based on merit, I don't care who it is. Indo Trinidadian, Afro Trinidadian, Afro Tobagonians, Afro Ghana, I don't care. I really don't care. But certain people just use that spin to ignite and hope that it will stick on somebody's wall and that the press will pick it up and run with it and social media will highlight it among their bloggers and so on and create quite an unnecessary scenario. Um, so let's kill it right there. The
All right. So
second thing
go ahead. Go ahead.
I wanted to touch more on the economic side. Let me put on my economist hat, which I wore for many years. Um, remember, there are two things happening economically in the island. The IMF is in Trinidad and Tobago. And there were discussions held between the Minister of Finance and the team, as well as Jerlene John, the Minister of Infrastructure and Works. She had they had their attention as well because she laid out the infrastructure revitalization plan. And certain groups of people want to know how is that going to be financed. And from the time you hear IMF, from the time the word IMF comes, or in any media, whether it's social media or print media, one thing comes around: increased taxation, more tightening of your belts, and a lot of squandermania in government projects and so on. That is the first thing that hits your mind. So I think the Ministry of Finance, laid all fears that there's no devaluation in the horizon and so on. That
And
was
there is
never
no
discussed.
intention of the government. And I am totally against going to the IMF because I think we need the chance to work with those opportunities in the energy sector that we see developing drastically. Dr.
Yeah,
Munila went to India, and there's some great
yeah.
opportunities and great news there.
I will touch on that. I will touch
Yeah,
on Gary. I just want
yeah,
to get rid of
yeah.
this
Go
side
ahead.
of it. Is the IMF, but the IMF never said anything about the evaluation. They came here. They came here to get information as to what are the development plans of the country and how are these things going to be financed. So government has shown the capacity to raise funds, whether it's locally or foreign on the foreign market. They did last week or last 2 weeks ago when they raised $1 billion on a bond that was floated. So,
But whichever way we go overseas, we are all attracting business opportunity. People have
right.
interest that so there. I mean,
The-
within a short period of time, we will be able to restructure and rebuild the country. So
Now,
I mean, we've seen the developments taking place. But go ahead.
the thing is that the last bond that is floated was oversubscribed by 2.5 times. So it tells you that the rating, the international rating of TNT is excellent still. That we can afford to raise finance, not at an exorbitant rate or interest rate, I should say, in the international markets, and that's a positive sign.
But the also
So
positive thing here, Mr. Singh, is that the government that's in place is showing the worthiness of investment. So this is what
right,
is that this is what's attracting the investment is is the worthiness of being invested to. This government has some collateral based on the team that's there, and that is what creating generating interest. So go ahead.
naturally, we have the assets, and once we can, borrowing is not bad. Borrowing assists in growth and development, providing that that growth and development does not go out into recurrent expenditure. In other words, you don't use that money that you borrow to pay salaries and wages. And most of these monies that are borrowed is for infrastructure development, roads, highways, overpasses, you know, and whatever capital expenditure there. And it's not for recurrent expenditure. It was for development expenditure. So when they build a road or an overpass, it benefits all, not only UNC supporters or PNMs, the country benefits. The country looks good. Foreigners come on to invest. Hey, this place here is development. It has good infrastructure. It has good telephone, and internet services. It has electronic banking. Things that will foster business development. So these things do not operate in a vacuum. It is something has to be well planned and coordinated among various ministries and departments and various agencies and what have you. So this is the thing which seems to be bugging a lot of people at how come the UNC can afford to raise capital to do development projects. And that seems to be the main area of contention. How come the UNC is able to raise this? Now, that is one side, that's the IMF side. But Gary and Ken, I
Well,
don't know
we
if
are
you all.
economically attractive. The
That's
team
right.
is economically attractive. And
Yes.
because the previous team was not economically attractive, that's why they had such a hard time.
Yes. And
Welcome,
secondly,
Dr. Rambo. Dr. Rambo in the house.
Welcome,
Hi
Dr.
guys,
Ramrup.
hi guys.
that goes up.
Not too bad, not too bad.
Right.
Babysitting.
So, yeah, we still cold here in Miami, so
Oh
that's
my God.
why.
Well, it's 9 degrees where I am,
Yeah.
and about 50 miles west of me is 1 degree uh, over there.
That's in Maple Shade or Trenton. Yeah, today is the warmest day. The only day I've been out for the past 10 days. Anyway, so Gary and team, I distinctly mentioned what are the economic benefits that will accrue should the Pointe-à-Pierre refinery takes off. And the same thing we discussed as a team here about a month ago or so, just after the US went into Venezuela directly and took out President Maduro and company, we foresaw that this action will be a net positive for TNT. Now, that is one side of it. The other side of it, that Minister of Energy went in the Far East. First, he went to Bahrain to discuss the same thing, infrastructure development, and especially as to the oil industry. And then he went to the Indian conference in oil and LNG last week. And upon his return, he mentioned about the Indian oil company showed an interest in evaluating the Point-à-Pied refinery as well as Reliance company. Reliance is also what's called an Ambani company who owns the largest oil refinery in the world in Gujarat. They produce 1.5 million barrels of oil, refined oil per day. Per day, you're talking about. Eh? So that interest that is shown, if that materializes, will put Trinidad and Tobago in a nice sweet spot. And I'll tell you how. US government, the US administration has entered into negotiation with India to absorb most of the Venezuelan crude. And if that happens, and if by coincidence that the Indian oil company can resuscitate the Point-à-Pied plant, what does that mean? India will have access to the oil production and transportation of oil from Venezuela. And instead of taking it way down to
Okay,
India to
we got
refine,
Vade in the house here finally. So
Yeah,
we
hi.
along the go ahead. Go ahead. We talking economics here, so you came in time.
Okay, great. Good evening,
yeah,
guys. Good evening,
Good evening,
everyone.
Vade. Good evening,
okay,
Vade.
great, yes. So instead of taking this all to India, that far away from Venezuela, I think it would be very lucrative for them to just ship it right across the Point-à-Pied to be refined. So that is something in the pipeline, and if that happens, then we really will be on the on the forefront, because as you know,
Speaking of that, we are 7 to 9 miles away from Venezuela. Maybe it could be feasible where we run a line across. Where eventually we could discuss that.
seven 7 miles is not far because you run lines from
Yeah.
Guayagüe to Point 14.
Yeah, yeah.
These
So what I'm
48.
saying, is, so that is possible. I don't know what the objective was with the Paria lines that they were working on out there when those divers died, but I think there was some kind of objective there with
uh,
with the ship coming alongside in the Gulf there and moving those oil, illegally too also. But anyway, go
that's,
ahead, gentlemen. Yeah.
that's another discussion. But Trinidad will find itself in a nice sweet spot, especially if you can combine that scenario with some Guyanese oil to be refined here as well. And as we all know, the money in the oil industry goes to the the downstream products, the products
But
that you market and
also
sell.
with that Venezuela opportunity developing there, well, and Venezuela has more oil than Saudi Arabia, which a lot of Venezuelan resources hasn't really been touched. So
That's
within
right.
a year or two, if they were to things were to be structured properly, there could be an incorporation of a lot of opportunities.
And not only that, Shell is saying that once they get their OPEC license, they can start to export the gas to Trinidad as well. So all in all, I think it's a positive move. It's something which we all should hope as Trinidadians that this thing really materializes and that the country will be in the forefront, I would say, of the oil industry once again in the Caribbean. So that should put us in pretty good stead, and that will alleviate all the back talk on where they're going to get funds to develop TNT and what have you. You know, all this IMF talk, that devaluation and blah blah blah. That all these things will be quelled. So from an economic standpoint, I see that as Trinidad can very well be at the center of development in the entire Caribbean, the entire Caribbean. So
You want to jump in there, Vade?
No, I think there's some very positive development with Maduro out of the picture. And I think if we can get the gas going, that will be a big plus to our current industries We can't lose sight, however, that we need to diversify so that we can't continue to leave all our eggs in one basket. But definitely, if we can get the refinery started, there's a significant amount of impact on our demand for foreign exchange and even a surplus foreign exchange coming through that industry. So that, along with the oil from Venezuela, will give us a good source of, I would consider it a relatively low cost crude. So I think we have to continue those discussions and make sure that they happen. And in the meantime, that should give us a little breathing space now to truly diversify the economy. We've spoken about it before many times. We have 94% of our food bill that's imported, and that doesn't make sense to us. To me, at least, it doesn't make sense. So I think there are several ways we can chip away and put Trinidad on a very sustainable growth path, a growth path that we don't have to depend on oil alone. Um, Particularly if we put our minds to local developmental of our roadways and so on, and open up the economy, that we could have growth in a sustainable way for the foreseeable future. And the question I continue to ask is, are we getting the best from our oil resources? And I think we have established that no one is really checking to see how much of our oil is exported, um, and whether we are getting our fair share with regards to the taxes and so on from the international companies. So, we have to tighten up at all ends, tighten up at all ends. We don't have the luxury of time again, and we don't have the luxury of being lack of vigilance with regards to our resources.
True, Will. And one thing, if I may add, the greatest return on your investment accrues not only to the oil producing country, but the people who are refining and marketing the various products associated with the industry. So in that case, Trinidad may or might not be producing much oil, but if we can become the number one refiner in the region and starting to market and sell these products wherever, we can be even better off than the actual producers of oil.
That is true. And are we getting the maximum added value even from our crude that we produce?
So
You
we
know why?
don't know that. You see, we don't
Okay, go ahead.
know. There's no
No, we don't
tangible
know, but
figures.
right, but we have access to international knowledgeable persons to come and do an audit, and we could find out that particular information very quickly. You all would have
Easily.
discussed that the government is in discussions with the uh, Indian
Indian
refineries
oil
and so on.
and Reliance, two
Yes, so
companies.
Reliance. I don't know if you all remember, but there was a global competition for the best, not just refinery, but the best manufacturer, including the car companies, BMW, etc. And Reliance came out on top.
Yes, yes. Well, that's part of the Ambani group, by the way. So,
Yes, correct. So,
right.
uh, Prime Minister Modi was here, and he has allocated 300 million US dollars. Part of that could go into refurbishing the uh, the refinery and get it started.
Correct. Correct. I mean, it has to be done incremental, but once we get started and revenue started flowing, we can expand and scale up production.
Well, because there'll be two sources of funds. If for example, out of that 300 million, we take 150, right,
Hmm.
and then we for any particular machinery or pieces of equipment that we need, we can source it from India through the Indian Exim Bank and get the refinery going as quick as possible.
And the Indian Oil Company owns 10 refineries in India. So they are
Yeah.
well versed in operationally, the operation side of things.
No, I can't say too much more, but I was asked to assist them in putting together the financing for the refinery. And the numbers I've seen is the payback period within 2, 3 years. So,
Wow,
so yeah,
that's
we have something
fantastic,
just
man.
sitting there. Sumant, we just have something sitting there.
Yeah, that is fantastic. And for an oil refinery payback, that's a large capital expenditure. That's at least over 7 years and more.
And we have structured it in such a way. I don't know if you recall the 2019 bid process. What were the results of that? The
No, I
result was
didn't.
the result was stark. I'll tell you the results. Out of about 75 companies who were interested, including Patriotic, that's the local Roger and these guys, OWTU company. Out of that, about 70 something were interested. I don't know how many of those who bought the packages, but out of those who bought the packages, five of them submitted the final bids,
Okay.
and
Okay.
all and the foreign companies, the best bid they had was $7 million payable over 15 years.
7
So,
million or 7 billion?
no, 7 million.
Okay.
So hold on a second. What it means to say, the international bidders who familiar with refineries around the world did not find
Mhm.
value in it because they said
That's
if
right.
they invest, if if they invest that 7 million over 15 years, which is 50,000 per annum, which is chicken feed, which is nothing. What
That's,
effectively
yeah.
these fellows were saying, give me the refinery, and when I get it going, I have to spend money to get it going, and then whatever taxes and so on accrue to the country, that's about it. Now, Roger and Petrotrin, they submitted a bid for 750 million. So I'm asking a question. All of that was not serious, and the game was prolonged. That saying, look, that this thing will be retained within the national ownership and all of that was a farce for 2, 3 years. Was a
Yes,
farce.
correct.
I wrote an article many years ago when that was disclosed. I said, look, these fellas are just carrying us for a joyride. This will never happen. It
Now
will
listen
never
what's happening
happen.
in Guyana here. This is on Google right now. Let's popped up.
Uh-huh.
Unemployment cut by half. President says wages is up 100% in key sectors.
Yeah, but they
So
remember they get a windfall, Gary. I mean, it's a windfall is like a family winning the lottery. Now, when your family win the lottery, your there's a massive extension of your family circles, and
And
that's exactly what is happening.
that happened in the 70s in Trinidad, you know. I don't know if anybody recall around 75, 76, 77, around there. Public servant wages almost doubled.
That is correct. That is correct.
Yes, I know because my brother who taught me in primary school, I ended up
Yeah.
making more money than him. he, he's 16 years my senior. He taught me in
Yes.
primary school, and I started to work in the government at that time. Gary knows. So I ended up earning the same income as he did it. So
Look at
that
that.
is totally unfair. And that was happened during the boom years. So whatever that they're experiencing right now is exactly that same scenario.
So
Yeah.
they know life plays tricks on us. And
Yep.
winning a lottery, you have to be very mature to manage it. Very
exactly, the
much.
managing part of things is what we do here is highly critical in this time around in Trinidad and Tobago. With the resources coming to us now, if we don't manage it right, we're done.
We're finished. This is our last chance. Last
Yes.
chance.
And I hope that the whoever is financing or taking over or helping in the resuscitation of that refinery, that they do have a foreign component to it that can lend their serious expertise to managing and administrating on the refinery. Because I don't know if Hess has the biggest refinery in the Caribbean right now, up in the islands, Virgin Islands, right?
Mhm.
And they barely employ 100 people.
That is correct.
It's
That
a
is so
high
correct.
tech, it's a high tech refinery. And by you, when I say high tech, using some of the latest technology to man the operations. So it's not a labor intensive refinery like long ago, what we planning or thinking that, Point A had nearly 15,000 employees and you could pad, with supporters. And this ain't going to happen once you have this foreign component into the administration and management of it. So they will go for something very lean, and once they go for something very lean where they can enhance the output, that will be the model they will go after. I mean, like everybody else, profit is the name of the game.
No,
So
that is correct. And I think whilst at the present time they can't use our local crude, which is about 50,000 barrels per day,
yep,
there's certain investments that will allow us to use that, and quite frankly, that will be the ideal situation so that we could immunize ourselves from international, volatility in terms of both pricing as well as supply.
yes,
So I,
absolutely.
I, I think I think we have some very, very good opportunities for Trinidad, but we should not be taking too long on it. We should not be taking too long.
Yes, well, the minister says something right after the carnival. They expecting that they start, meetings at a high level. So let's see what comes out of those discussions. But I think at all costs, I think we should go into it, because if you don't start, at least on the short term, have a short term window, let's say a 2-year window, and after that you get into something more long term. But
Hmm.
we need exactly as you're saying, Wade, we need to kickstart this thing as soon as possible. We should not be waiting too long on it.
Well, the longer we wait, the more our foreign exchange reserves will be depleted because we are importing all our fuel at the moment. We're
Correct. And then your
importing.
investors can go somewhere else with their investment.
That is true. That is true. But
Yeah,
why wait if we have a solution? It may not be the most efficient solution, but if it's a solution, we can get started. Time is
that's it.
money. The quicker you start, get it going.
That's my view as well.
So during the carnival season there on the 17th, in fact, Trinidad and Tobago is invited to Guyana for that energy conference. So they will have to, be heading in that direction over there.
There's one going on in Suriname the week after that as well.
Yes.
So
You
both
know,
Guyana
I don't know if you all remember, um, but at some point, Mr. Pandey had forgiven Guyana for about 500 million US dollars. I don't know if you all remember that, Suman.
yes, and Jamaica
I,
as well.
I heard about it.
Well, well, as far as I could see, whilst we forgave it at that point, we can ask them back for it now. Now that they have, no, no,
Yeah,
I'm very
yeah,
serious.
yeah. But
Whether it's by way
even
of a loan or whatever,
or
we can
or
say
or give us
Or doing
in
business with
crude,
us, Yeah.
and give us in crude oil. We
exactly.
gladly
So
take it.
let me give you another example. Just 1 second. Carl, just put on the air conditioner on the fan, please. Let me give you another example. You know, St. Kitts had borrowed a lot of money by way of bonds and so on, and
Mm-hmm.
Trinidad raised those bonds, and
Because
they had to take a cut, um, a haircut on those bonds, and I think about 30% or something on the dollar. No problem,
mm,
no problem.
right,
So
right.
we helped out St. Kitts. Since then, St. Kitts they have been selling what you call passports, and their economy is growing like mad,
Big time.
growing like mad.
Big,
And we like damn fools. So I think the lessons to be learned: don't forgive any debt, just postpone it. The
Postpone it.
lessons to be learned is never forgive a debt, just postpone it.
Yes.
Because I think, in all fairness, we can go to Ghana now and ask them for that money, We
In
can
some
ask them
form
for.
or the other, we can,
Yeah,
if we
just
can get even
remind
a
them that
partial payment, even as a
that is,
partial payment.
Suman,
Uh,
in bad times we help them. Now
yep,
it's our turn to be helped. If they want to just give us back or give us by way of a loan or something, that 500 million will get the refinery going.
that's
Secondly,
right.
we can also ask the Ghanaian government to come in and put in some capital and be a partnership with regards to our refinery here locally. Because if the replacement cost is very high, but we already have most of the infrastructure on the ground, come in and give us some money. Let's start it, and we can go 50-50 partnership. But we have to be bold. We have to take the steps to ask, and that's
Initiative,
the
correct.
American way. Am I
Yes,
right, Suman? That's the
absolutely,
American way.
absolutely, absolutely. They when they come to cut the deal, they go for after it. No hindrances. Whatever it is, you solve the problem up front and they just move along.
Exactly. So I think we have to be very bold in this world today. Otherwise, we'll be just continually shrugged aside, and then we're watching, drooling at other people's success, and we can't claim what is ours. And I think the approach has to be very clear. The Prime Minister could call up Ifran Ali, the president, and say, guys, look, let's sort this thing out. I think Ifran Ali is old enough to remember that when we wrote off $500 million.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure. So that's a excellent suggestion, Bid, and I sure that we can get a lot of buy-in to that, even from the Guyanese people per se.
Yes, yes,
Um, most of them will remember, how TNT saved the Guyanese economy for those years.
exactly. Look how India pulled out Sri Lanka. I don't know if you all recall
Oh,
that.
yeah, 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 yeah. That was a troubling situation across there. But I think it will be best if we could go with a leader, and the leader right now is India in oil refining. I don't know if you know, Ved, that they buy most of the Russian oil and they bypass the US dollar. They treat it in rupees. So they pay Russians for the oil, bring it to India, refine it, and sell it to Europe. And that is what has caused Trump and the US to implement these huge tariffs on Indian products.
Yes, yes,
Luckily, Trump has reversed course. He has reversed course last week. And, after calling India a dead economy, yet India is the fastest growing economy in the developed world, growing 8.2% per annum. So all those things are geopolitical things. I followed it to the T. I am, you know, as a business person, I look at these things and I see like where is the next step, the next loophole in all of this.
Look at
But
your screen at the meantime, guys. While I am putting up the slide.
so I think we could go with a proven company like Indian Oil or something like that, who has the experience, the expertise, and the funds, the know-how, the ability to grasp that. And if they can cut the deal with the US to get the Venezuelan oil, I understand it's 100 million or something to that effect. I have to check back the figures, or 800,000 barrels per day of accessible crude. So I don't know how much of that from the US. And remember now, they have other European companies like BP and Shell and BHP and EOG, and then the Spanish company, or they all are operating in Venezuela. So once these things open up under US the U.S. sanctions can give way now to, more or less free trade, then we in Trinidad can be sitting in a lucrative position. We need to get
Yeah,
us
what
up and running as fast as possible.
yeah, what is required in my there's a massive oil find of Andaman and Nicobar Island.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think
That's a billion
right,
dollar. That's a billion
right.
dollar.
So
Sorry.
it means to say India would have developed the technology to mine for oil in the sea, in the deep
Yeah.
waters. So I
Yes.
think
Well, Shell.
as a as
Yes.
a as a as a rule, we should also invite them to bid on these blocks.
Yes. Well,
Invite them to bid.
Shell and ExxonMobil, they should be starting this month. I understand in the deep 500 meter, 500 5,000 feet depth
Yes.
in the northeast coast, which is of the southeast Tobago, east of Trinidad. That deep water block there.
Hmm.
So, I mean, things looking well. I mean, I see these are positive signs. We got to keep the fire burning and do not delay. Do not delay. This might be our last chance to really kickstart this economy and propel us to be the leading country in the Caribbean once again. Because to be honest with you, this diversification, which was since I'm going to school, I'm hearing this talk about diversification, but nothing has really diversified. We have diversified into downstream industries all related to oil. Yes, oil and gas. But given the current scenario in Trinidad with crime, one, the ease of doing business, the lack of foreign exchange, and so on, investors may be a bit timid to come and set up shop at this point in time. It will be that diversification process, whether it be in small and medium sized business, tourism, manufacturing, they're all suffering from the same thing, crime
But
and lack
but
of foreign
Suman,
exchange are killing.
guys, let me ask a question.
Sure.
We are investing our what you call heritage and stabilization fund abroad. Am I right?
Yes.
We're investing it
Correct.
abroad, right? I don't know what percentage in money market, what percentage in bonds, what percentage in equities, but I suppose that is available somewhere. The
Yeah.
question
Yeah.
I have, the question,
Central bank should have
yeah,
those figures.
yeah, they're the ones managing it, right?
Yeah.
So the question I have, why can't some of those funds come into Trinidad for investments? And I'll tell you where we should be investing. Anything that to save on foreign exchange, in other words, import substitution, um, that we should be looking at investing because it impacts on our use of foreign exchange.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have to have an open mind to say exactly where should these be funds now, these funds be invested. Now we would have an investment policy for those funds that has to be examined. Is it clear that all these funds must be invested abroad, or can they be invested in certain industries locally? So I think we have to put all the marbles on the table, and nothing is sacrosanct anymore. And we have to look at it from a national perspective and see what is the best use of those funds. Because effectively, by investing it abroad, we're giving President Trump and all these foreign companies we're giving them money to invest, and which may not be in our best interest now that the foreign market is very, very, I'd say, fragile. We are not too
Mm-hmm.
sure if they could be falling, as we are seeing it, Bitcoin with with uh, with
Oh,
uh, with all the stocks, I believe, all the stocks.
yes. Yeah. Well, Friday was an exception because everything went up big time. The the thing with that trade, I see that as as an option, but unfortunately, I am opposed to that, given the nature of our political history with individuals, um, should the government change, we can very well lose that within a year. All our investment, all entire heritage and stabilization fund can go through the shoots, just as how almost 10 billion went through the shoots when PNM was there. So unless this is sanctioned by Parliament, that whoever comes as a new government or so, that they continue with this effort. Money should never be used, as you say, good money should not chase bad money. So in other words, don't pay public servants with this money. Don't pay, recurrent expenditure with this money, unless it's for capital development projects. And this what I'm saying has to be sanctioned. Then I'm just afraid that if we pump our heritage and stabilization fund, given the little we have, about $5 billion in US dollars, we can lose everything, knowing how the politicians operate. They find a way to spend the money because it's not their money. It's people's the money.
Okay.
That's how they
But
think.
Sumant, as it stands, there's nothing to prevent the government. I think there's a certain amount they can withdraw to meet
Yes, they can.
to meet operating expenditure.
I know. Yeah, they can. But again, if it gets into the wrong hands and people who spend, really on it, we just can. That's our last savings, so to speak. And should that be?
Yeah,
I
I
think
just want to welcome our listening
Yeah.
audience here, Natira, Marilyn, and let's see who else was here. There, Riaz is in the group. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Yes,
Yes,
Sumant,
yes.
we're
Sumant, you
talking
make
the
a good
same
point there.
language. We're talking the same
You made a
language
good point.
because
Sumant,
those funds have to be spent on capital expenditure that can actually bring in foreign exchange or save on foreign exchange. I fully agree with you because we have to be very careful. Let me make a point. When we say we have foreign exchange reserves on a net basis, we also borrow against it.
That's
So
right.
when you prepare the balance sheet, we are negative. We are negative.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. This is our last straw. Last straw. I would not like to see it in the hands of politicians, so-called politicians. That is my point, because they will
that
whittle it
that is
away,
a
and
that's a scary situation.
that's a
I
scary
think
situation.
it should remain.
Yes,
It should remain with Goldman Sachs, and I think it's a 40-60 bonds stocks, and the stocks that they invest in is all AAA companies. These are
right,
um,
right, right,
equity
right.
analysts who research these things on a daily basis, and they're up to
Mhm.
date with global investments. So Goldman Sachs is a top of line company, and I think I would
And
feel comfortable leaving right there.
and they will invest
Bring
in
it
BlackRock and
correct.
all these companies,
Any
stable.
well, well, remember they use that money also to make money for
Mhm.
themselves, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
at the end of the day, they are there to ensure that they turn a profit and they return, some sort of agreed interest, right? So as far as
Well,
security wise,
yeah,
I think
but
it's solid.
but I think Wade might have a different perspective based on his experience with these large companies getting the greater part of the benefit. Wade, you might have a different view on some of these things because of your past experience, seeing how we was borrowing money
No,
against and what.
well, we can just look back at history. While
Mhm.
Goldman Sachs and Citibank and all these people have the necessary expertise, the question I would like to like answered is what transpired during the fall of the stock market in 2008. What is it exactly
Yeah,
transpired?
right.
Then I think
Correct.
so. We have to know what happened to our funds. I know for a fact. I know for a fact that in one year, within 1 week, we lost over 800 million US dollars in our foreign investments. So
Hmm.
what did it transpire then? It rebound, the market rebound. I'm not saying no, but the market always don't have to rebound. The
Okay, so the point,
29,
my question, Wade, is if the market rebound, did we regain any funds there?
yeah, we lost about 7 or 800 million. and then we regained 5. So we still lost about 2 to 300 million. 2 to 300 million, let's say 200 million multiplied by 7. That is 1.4 billion TT dollars. That's a lot of money. It's a lot
Yeah,
of
but
money.
that is chicken feed what's compared to the Auditor General's report, which they still can't find.
Well, those are called omissions and what?
Well, I don't think that's over where it is to be found. I think we still have to keep looking. I don't think we got really started with that yet. And as far as I'm concerned, we should not let that loose because I mean we have seen too much. And in the last meeting, they went for a last minute dip,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
in fact it was a big dip,
can you
into the
say
treasury.
can you say a little bit about the CLICO side of things? Because my understanding, CLICO has been making money. They have made money. They have recovered. The government has borrowed against it big time. That's PNM government, that is. So I don't know if you have some insights that you can share on that side of it.
Well, I'm sort of a little more familiar with some of the assets that Pico had, and they put it in the NIF.
Okay?
That's a National Investment Fund.
Yeah, the
And,
NIF.
and those shares, and in addition to that, that was Republic Bank shares.
Yes.
Then there were, I think, one of the media company, their shares. Then government put in TGU, that's the electric generating company. They put that in, but that is not floated in the market. That is not floated in the market. Then they had Angostura shares. So that much is
Right.
public information. They've appointed me a director on that board. So they're trying to put now FCB shares into it as well. So we are looking at the risk assessment, the what you call it, the value at risk and so on. Because I think at the time when they did it, that's the PNM government, is either the advisors didn't have the experience to understand market risk. So it's something that the board is concerned about market risk and see how best to configure the bond, that you have flexibility in the event if it is a market turn in any of the shares, that the government will have the flexibility. Now I don't know if you're familiar with the bond that the government recently did.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
right? They put in a very nice redemption clause, which I found was very professional.
Yes,
Professional,
yes.
because that redemption clause says that look, they can pay off, call this bond at any time,
Mhm.
are subject to making the investors what you call making them whole. That's a standard clause. In other words, right? If
Right.
there's a movement in interest rate, if the investors have to reinvest at a lower interest rate, the government said they will make you whole, as if you were invested in a bond of the similar interest rate that what is being called upon. So so those are flexibilities, those are technicalities in structuring bonds to make
The
sure
buffer.
that you
The
retain
buffer. Yeah.
flexibility.
Yeah.
To retain the last bond they have 20 years. 20 years, we cannot touch our equity. They issue 20-year bonds, which is madness against an. You're laughing. I tell the guys, I said, look, I've never seen this done anywhere in the world.
I
Thanks,
don't. I haven't.
thanks, thanks to Jerry Hospitalis and
Oh my
his
God!
brilliant,
Don't mention that guy. He
and they're
knows
brilliant.
everything. He knows
Knows
everything, and he knows
everything,
nothing.
everything. So, I think the government needs a lot of advice on this. I'll try my best. But again, I'm just one voice
Yes.
but I think the board is with me on it. They understand the risk, so we want to structure it in such a way that government is not subject to a 20-year equity portfolio risk.
No way. Dr. Ramup does always say enterprise risk management. Doc?
But
I
enterprise
thought
risk,
he stepped out a little bit. I don't
Oh,
know if he's going to come
yeah,
back. Yeah.
yeah, enterprise risk is another major exercise to understand it. So I was explaining to people that that includes if you could wear high heel shoes on what size
That's
carpet and
right.
everything.
That's right. Or Sabbath.
Stop. You're right. Or if the temperature is too cold, you can't come in with your merino. We're not responsible for your illness and
That
enterprise
man.
risk is massive.
But whoever that structured those agreements like that, uh, it leaves a lot to be desired. Was it? Well, you say, well, one man down there, that man knows everything. He thinks he knows everything. My dealings with him is, I look up, I laugh when I see this guy, Jerry Hospitales.
Yes, so
He's,
I think, Suman,
yeah,
Trinidad not short of educated people, but they'll be educated in some of the best universities. They come back here and they'll either lose their knowledge or lose their confidence and not
no, you
willing
see,
to shout.
yeah, but you see, when these guys are appointed as chairman and head of the team, they want their views to be predominated, and they have a clique within a clique. So you
Yes,
see, if the president says so, it must be so. That kind of winner. And nobody wants to oppose for opposing's sake, even though what the chairman is saying is totally damn wrong.
that is correct. That is so
You
correct.
know.
But Suman, from my experience, I work with, let's say, Canadian banks, which has the British tradition. And
Yeah, they're very
in that tradition,
conservative. Very
in that
conservative.
tradition, yeah, you don't oppose your boss.
No
Then when I
way.
work
No.
when I work with Citibank, it's different. You throw everything
Yes.
on the table and you argue it out.
Yes. Yes.
Oh
You
Lord,
agree to
it's
disagree.
really a difference in culture.
Yeah, yeah. CIBC, in particular, Bank of Nova Scotia, Royal Bank Canada, they are very, very conservative lenders, and they don't, unlike American banks, like Chase and what have you.
Yeah, the cultures are very different. And we have
Totally.
inherited the British culture here. You don't tell your boss anything. In fact,
Yeah.
that's one of the problems in government, in that
Yes.
you anticipate what the minister may have said or may not have said, and you start implementing, whether right or wrong, you start implementing.
Yeah, but you do not. You're looking for a job next week, man.
Well, let me tell
No,
you.
no
But
in the culture here.
let me tell you some of the lessons I learned. And one of them is if you're afraid to lose your job, you cannot do your job. It's as simple as
That's
that.
right. That's right. Yeah.
If you're afraid, you can't do it. Forget it.
Well, see, I can tell you one thing. I went through that situation, and it all depends in what stage in your life you are in. Let's say
That is,
you just got married and you just bought a house and this and that and that. You don't want to lose your job at that time. But
right,
when
but
you're 60, when you're 60 now, I can say, here, take the damn keys and do what you have to do and walk off. So it all depends on what
no,
stage of
no.
your life you
So
enter
man,
the market.
so man, that is where this country suffers from mortgageitis.
Mhm.
You hire a mortgage to pay, you can't say nothing.
You can't say nothing. You cannot say
Exactly.
nothing.
That is
You
true.
are total. You are just a price taker. Anything they give you, you have to swallow it.
That is true.
And this is
So
where structural change needs to take place.
meaningful change, Gary. Change from inside. Change from inside, man. Yeah, don't put not because you will won the election, you won your seat, you must be heading everything, or you must be heading this and that. No way. Or your friends and family heading this. Put the best damn people to do the job. You know. So, but it's my take. Can let me use you very quiet.
I'm listening. I'm listening. You know, but I believe our heritage and stabilization fund is with Goldman Sachs, and I think these big funds, these hedge funds and stuff, they have certain rules where you have to do a 40-60 percent bonds, 40% equities, and
Yeah.
we're dealing
Some say good.
with
Yeah.
U.S. Treasuries, right?
Yeah.
A lot of stocks. They don't just go and invest in penny stocks, right? They're looking at high yield.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
think we with the money there, we have something that's consistently coming in, right? In terms of a return, interest, payable over, I guess, certain amount of quarters based on the agreements. But
And you don't want to risk that little bit you
and
have
we don't
now.
want to risk that. Now the market is
Yeah.
cyclical. Market goes
But
up,
this
goes
is this is
down.
where I see. I don't want to disrupt Candy. Hold your thought. But this is where I see where we island people cannot survive on our own to an extent. Everybody that's back in there, your economy floats on the U.S. dollar. So I mean, how do
Yeah,
we change that? How do we change that dependency? Again, we are buying goods from China and Taiwan and wherever, and it still has to be cleared through the U.S. Clearinghouse,
Yes, yes.
right? So we are locked into a position which is I am totally against. Whether anybody like it or dislike that, I'm just saying that's how I feel about this thing.
That,
Why are we constantly giving the U.S. the opportunity to dominate us? You
and
know.
that is, Gary, that's what you can call when you're a price taker. You just have to absorb the price, whatever they call for you.
Yeah,
You
but
are
what I'm
a
saying,
price
right?
taker.
Okay, we're
but
buying goods through Amazon, say for Amazon, for example, and you look at the goods, it being made in China and whatever country, but mostly China, right? Or India, wherever. And why does it have to be cleared in the US? Why? See,
Well,
this
yeah.
is forcing our dependency on you. This whole system is designed to force our dependency on US dollar.
So you're a price taker regardless of what. You have
And
to be like,
we don't have the collaboration in the CARICOM because they are PNM loyalists, and I call
right.
it as I see it. Right or
Yeah.
wrong, that's the way I see it. They're the PNM voters bank most of the time, and I mean, they're smiling in our face, but their loyalty is because of their history with Eric William. But what I'm saying to
And that,
you is, I am concerned that the Caribbean is in a very weak position on the dependency of US dollar. And I need to see this strengthen where we gain some kind of independence and we have a say so because we have no say so. Right now, Donald Trump could tell us move left, jump, or stoop, or hop, or whatever it is, and we have to do it if we want to survive. And he's enjoyed playing with that string.
correct. And this goes back to Vade's point, the import substitution aspect of it is either you do without or you try to build out your own, you know, supporting productive
We have
sectors.
a high
but
dependency of food import right now.
and
Yeah.
that's the
Mostly
next point,
yeah. Means,
right?
but the dependency. Listen, I'm from the Caribbean. I was born in Trinidad, and if it comes to push to shove, I have to really take the interest of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yep.
And I don't see our best interest represented here by being so dependent and under the subjection of the U.S. or the U.K. or Canada or anybody. I mean, we got independence, but how independent are we? We are independent with a leash around our neck. We have a leash around our neck. Go ahead, Vay.
So
Let me hear
Yeah,
you.
Well, well, we are allowed a leash around our neck. We can't vex for that.
that,
Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. Say, for example, Jamaica was leaning towards China in terms of all its investment and development and so on. Do you know there are about 4 billion US dollars that are remitted from America to Jamaica every year? 4 billion. Let me
one of
ask,
the highest in the Caribbean.
probably the highest, right? So
Yeah.
let me ask a question. Some say, oh, no problem. You only want to go China, I'll put on a tax on this money. So Jamaica could say, no problem, I don't need your money. I'm going to work with China now and send a lot of Jamaicans to China if China allows it and let them send remittance from China. So, over the years, we can't vex with Trump on many issues.
No, no,
It is
no, no.
we,
Correct.
right. So let's look at another thing, and people and economists are not looking at this thing seriously. If our propensity to import is so high, over 90%, and look at the things we eat, look at the things we wear. up to we cannot make shoes anymore. We can't even make a shoelace anymore. We can't make a button for our pants anymore. We can't make a zip for our pants anymore. We
But
don't make
we
watches.
are psychologically conditioned that if it don't make somewhere foreign, we don't appreciate it.
No, but that's because we're borrowing money, US dollars, and spending, and that is where the problem lies.
And
That is
I
No,
where
would
the
I'm
problem
make it
lies.
I
that
am looking at the psychic of our people. We are so conditioned that if it don't mark USA or something foreign, we don't respect it, we don't
No,
value
no,
it.
no, 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 Gary. But let's look at this problem practical. Is because we can do that because we're still getting US dollars, whether we beg, borrow, or steal. But we have been borrowing, and who has been borrowing? Here, who has been borrowing? Eh?
price
Government.
was.
This this country is run on borrowings. We are a debt-driven economy, and who has been borrowing? Is the government has been borrowing and spending. Because when the UNC took over in 2010, we were $45 billion. When they finished, we were $75 billion. That's a TT equivalent. When PNM finished with us, we are $150 billion, and it's going up again. It's going up again. So the day banks stop lending Trinidad, that is the end of it. That is the end of it. Because once borrowing monies are not coming into the country to support the economic activities of everybody,
That's why I
then
keep on
what
saying
then
they
what
can't be
are we going to
borrowing
do?
for recurring expenditure. We cannot just can't do that. And unless these things are enshrined politically, any party comes in, they could subside all these good work that we are doing and go back to the same old of borrowing till they die.
We're
It's
borrowing to
just
live, but you can only borrow if somebody willing to
so,
lend.
so up to so much. There'll always be lenders, but they're taking out 25% upfront.
Well, that is worse than money lending.
Yeah,
That is
that's what they
true.
do. That's what they
No,
do. These are the sharks because
no, no,
nobody
no.
is going to lend you.
Sumant, I don't
Nobody.
disagree with you because China only lends to debt-ridden countries and they take away your
And,
assets.
and when they can't pay, they take their airport, they take their
Yeah,
shipping port, they
yeah.
take the most valuable piece of your real estate. That's what they do. That's what they do with a lot of countries in Africa.
That
That
is
is
Well,
what
correct.
they have
well,
done.
there's a lot of low
Djibouti and
interest
all them.
loans. They
You
provide a
know,
lot of
Djibouti,
low interest financing.
yes, but they have
Djibouti,
their objectives. They
Yeah,
have
that's
their
very
no,
objectives.
attractive. And
Sri Lanka have lost their port due to that. Djibouti in Africa has lost their port because of that and precious real estate. So these are the things they hold. They're glad. They're glad when you can't pay back. The Chinese are glad when you cannot pay back. They come and they seize your assets, and there's nothing you can do.
But Suman, the Sri Lanka is a very good example to study because to enter that port, you virtually have to have a passport. To enter that port. I mean, India
Yeah,
damn upset because they're so close and you don't know what sort of military
yeah,
armament is going to be stationed there and so on.
and
But but
that is the
but
whole point.
but
That
that
is the
model
whole
is
point.
falling apart. That model is falling apart. The Gwadar port in Pakistan is a
In
good example.
Pakistan, yeah, yes,
It's a
because
good example.
that circle, that Silk Road project is going to happen again because
It's not going to
Pakistan has
happen.
defaulted. They have
That's correct.
defaulted in their component. So,
Balochistan is a separatist movement.
and they all that's where all the action is for the past couple of days. But you see, Wade, what has happened in TNT case, right? I agree with you that we should try to get some sort of return in our heritage and civil, but I do not trust the politicians to, in whatever little money we have left, to throw it in their hands. I don't. That's why I'm saying we
No,
have to
I'm,
either
I'm
lock it up.
no, I'm not saying to throw it in their hands. But this is where we need to change governance as we go along, and that is why we need to have an independent body in Trinidad, comprising of a variety of professionals, to say
No,
where
well,
we should put.
when they put the hospitalists and employers in charge, what do you expect?
You, I mean that is he doesn't
And that is
qualify.
that
The PNM, the PNM wins no matter who wins, right?
that is the point. So who, even though Wade is there, I may be there, and we focus on the best team for TNT. What them say goes, because them is chairman, them is assistant chairman, and so on. So that is what I'm saying with that this has to be politically enshrined in us somewhere along the line, which limits your ability to get your hands in the money, so to speak. That is what
That is
because this
no,
this is
no,
like this is like my last dollar I have in my pocket, and I want
right.
to
So
make sure, you know.
right. So then you see, Saman, at the moment there's no control on recurrent expenditure by the government.
I know, I
There's
know,
no control,
I know that. That's a
right?
fact.
But
And
let's go again. Let's go again. In many countries, even England, they're cutting back on civil servants and so on.
yes, but you
They're
look
using
at the headline recently in Trinidad and see what's happening.
Now, when IMF came into Barbados, I think they probably one third of the civil servants had to go. They got a package, not a problem. In the 80s and probably early 90s, the port the port workers got a nice package, and they were rehired and they got a second package, and I think they were rehired and got a third package. But I mean, a fascinating investment for the port workers. So
But
I think at some stage, and that the Trinidad is going to get in such a massive recession and the depression as we felt in the 1980s, that something has to give. And with regards to Ken and let's say the big banks managing our foreign reserves, I'll tell you, I was part of a team with the IMF and World Bank and the CDB trying to sort out the banking crisis in the Eastern Caribbean, and they had so much surplus EC dollars that they converted to US, and they gave their these US dollars to investment banks abroad to make certain investments. Now,
uh,
the first response in a recession, the advisors from America saying, hold on, it's just a temporary dip and you'll get back your money and so on. And it was ice out in the sun, and it kept being depleted and they couldn't do anything. So we are a small fry in the scheme of things. That when
yes,
you have to liquidate your portfolio, you are
it's a
last in
fire
line.
sale. It's
You are
a
last
fire
in line.
sale.
In a fire sale, you are last in line.
Yeah.
You are last in line. Now, whilst we might have a 60-40 or 40-60, whatever the case may be, in the meantime, people like Warren Buffett has about 300 to 400 billion dollars in cash waiting for this crash, so they can buy up things that are with pennies, and that is what's happening. As a small fry, we have to be very careful. There was a time, I could tell you this, there was a time that central bank was managing these funds on their own. And it was I told the governor at the time, I say, you cannot do that, because when you're managing funds of such a large nature, you have to be on it every second of the day. You can't
Exactly.
have you can't have managers going out for lunch 2 hours and coming back. Within that time, intraday, you could lose all your
Uh,
money.
market swings alone. Market
Yes.
swings one way or the other.
So I had advised him free of charge. I said, go and get some professional fund managers to bid on the business and see what sort of thing. I don't know if it appears that they did it afterwards, but I was free advice to them, because you can't have somebody going out on lunch with his girlfriend, come and 2 3 hours you outside. In the meantime, nobody's watching the fund. Intraday movements could wipe you out, and we are seeing it with gold and silver
Wait,
now before our face.
yeah.
Oh, big time, big
Wait,
time.
wait. All you need is Trump to say something in the news, and you see a nosedive. That's
Ken,
all.
Ken, Ken, you're just confirming what I'm saying. Every damn thing so volatile.
That is what
It's so
look tells
volatile.
you. if you look Thursday, what happened to the market, and look Friday?
Now all of that is
Thursday
manipulated. You remember
manipulation, and
but
the big guys can afford to do that because they know how they're buffering their stuff and
they
how their
know.
investment. But when you with
Well,
your
there's
$1 in your pocket have to safeguard that, what what does it say? My $1 is
exactly,
in jeopardy.
exactly, exactly.
So
Lord, it's a big game, and the small fries that take the
oh,
licks, and
you hold the stick, man. You hold the stick. But
you know, India, uh, guys. I don't know if you remember, just probably a month or two ago, India dropped India dropped the tariff on silver.
yes, yes,
Indians
I
like
follow.
to buy gold and silver. So
Oh,
the demand among the population of India for silver just went up. And that drained a lot of the silver from around the world that came into India, and they bought it up. Now, in addition to that, the federal the Reserve Bank of India (RBI)
uh-huh.
they also started to use silver as reserves. So you
Okay.
can imagine how much they're sucking silver out of the economy.
Out
In
of
the
the world
meantime,
market. Yeah.
yeah, the world market. But here in the meantime, what happened? The large banks they are selling silver certificates. They don't have the silver. They don't have the silver. So when they sell the silver certificate, you as an
Right.
investor in the certificate always believe you could come and redeem your certificate and get silver. So what
Right.
has happened is that these people came to redeem and the banks are short silver. So they start to bid up now the price of silver to satisfy the demand for the certificate
Rede-
holders.
redemption.
Redemption. So, there's a lot of short selling and all of that taking place
Yeah.
where we are more fragile in this economy than 2007. We are more
Yeah.
fragile today.
Wow.
The other section of the market, which people don't, they call it shadow banking. That is
Mm-hmm.
all the derivatives that is running to several hundred trillion. Nobody, nobody in the world, no central bank in the world has a handle on how much derivatives is outstanding. Some are
Yeah.
guessing 300 trillion, 700 trillion, whatever, right? When
Yeah.
that start to fall as domino, you know what happens to the financial market?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm making the point. I'm making the point. If there's some truth in this, and everything about future is probabilities. Some might
Yeah.
say 80% probability, some might say zero probability. These fellas are overconfident, nothing is going to happen, everything is business as usual. But when you are making decisions for your country, for your company, for yourself, it is always by way of some projection, whether it's a professional projection, whether it's intuitively, etc. But it's
But
always with a projection. So I want to
right.
ask the question today for Trinidad, let's say policymakers, what are their projections for the world economy and how is that going to impact oil and gas prices and how does that impact on can anybody in this country
No,
give
well,
you that statement?
nobody does that. They buy reports from the various media houses and they use that as the projection. That's what they do. I know that for a fact. Nobody
Right.
in 320 does any projection. They buy the information outside from, one of these reputable, I don't know, I hope it's reputable companies, and they use that as projection. Or they maybe use IMF or World Bank
All right.
figures, which are more or less 2 years outdated.
Yeah,
People
but
don't know that.
Suman, that's like a consultant. He borrow your watch, he tell you the time, and he charge you for it. Where you
That's
think?
right.
Where you think IMF and they get all the information from? From our
It's
ministry,
all lies comes from the ministries of the various islands. Some people send, some people don't send.
right? So I am
I
asking
use
you. I'm asking you, right?
Where I used to be by next to the, I used to go to school next door at George Washington University. The
Yeah,
World Bank and IMF is within the compound of the university. It's
right.
within this university, George, who owns all the real estate out. The OAS, IMF, World Bank, all that falls within the university. I used to
Uh-huh.
go there and hang out with some of the economists and so on. And they used to tell me, man, boy, when they're doing like Latin America and the Caribbean, they lump all of that into one area,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes,
And
yes.
if 10 countries send in and 9 countries don't send, you use the average for all of them. So what
All
happened is
right.
that these figures are skewed. These
Yes,
figures are skewed so
yes,
badly that that information is totally incorrect. And yet
exactly.
we use that and say World Bank report to estimate that the economy will grow by this amount. That's total bullshit. Total bullshit.
But the problem is that we fall for that foolishness. So
Yes, we do.
we don't know how this economy is doing without somebody outside telling us how to do it. And what is the state of affairs in Trinidad?
Yeah.
So much tomorrow, if you hire, let's say, a group of A-level students, right, to go around
Hmm.
door to door and find out the state of the economy, how many people employed, how you were employed last year compared to this year, what is your level of confidence that things will improve. We can gather all that information. That's
Yeah.
a simple survey. Simple survey. IMF don't do that. They will come and
No,
ask it to the government.
they, yes, and the government data, like our CSO data, is 2 years lagging. So what the government is submitting as latest information is
Yeah,
2024 figures. And what about if the other countries are doing the same? Then what is the World Bank projection or the IMF projection? It's way out of whack.
that is true.
So we cannot
But
use those figures. Because according to a good friend of mine who worked there, and I used to be in contact with, to go and hang out in the beer garden and thing after from time to time. He used to say, "Well, he have a job to do. I have to send my boss here a report on how the performance of the Caribbean and Latin America is doing, and I only get feedback from 9 islands. What about the 29 other islands or countries or the other 16? He says he takes an average, man, and does submit. Make sure he submits his report, and
yes, yes,
that is
yes,
what that
yes,
is what passes as World Bank data or IMF data. There's no substitute from your country data. And I kept on harping that we need to do a census as soon as possible, capturing a wide cross section of all the data from health data, community data, income data, and what have you across the board. That was priority number one, to know at least a benchmark where our assets and things lie, and what is our the real GDP and all this kind of thing. But nobody has done that. I think
mm,
they're planning to do a census this year. I'm not too sure, but we can't benchmark on nothing because we don't have the data on nothing. At least the up
exactly.
to date data on nothing.
Hmm. Well, it's a
So
sad case because technology has advanced so much from the 1950s, 60s, and so on. And
yeah,
technology is very simple. For example, how many cars go to Port of Spain from south every day? You can put
yeah.
those markers across the road, and you could estimate it.
Yeah,
You could
yeah.
estimate it.
And the amount of information you could just gather from that, you can tell, at what time period, like say from 8:30 to 9, 9:30 to 10, like that, or from
Exactly,
12:30, and you can
exactly.
plan your routes, alternative routes at the peak times and so on. It can give you good ideas of when to build your roads and how to build your roads and where you should build your roads. But you see, we don't use that type of data. And
Mm.
that is what they call dynamic data. We don't use dynamic data for decision making. We
If
use the
you,
IMF data, which is 2 years old, and finding a mean average and using that as our yardstick for making decisions.
well, I could tell you one thing that I judge. I call it the barrier index, right? The barrier index. That is the one that the UNC had put down. That is you remember Jack had put down the barriers, the cable barriers
Oh,
going south.
yeah, 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 in the highway, in the
So
highway.
I use that as the barrier index, and it fell apart now. And I say that that's equivalent to what's happening to the economy. The second index I use is the what you call it, traffic index. Do you know uh, during this week I went to Port of Spain to reach for 10 o'clock. I left home 7:30, and by 8:30 I was in Port of Spain. So I'm
Mm,
wondering now. I'm wondering here what I'm wondering, that school is not on holidays, so it's not a case where many of the parents stay home or do it on holidays as well with their children. So that's not the case. We just come out from all the Christmas season and all the fêtes at New Year's. So this has to be normal traffic now. And I know before, when you soon as you hit the from the Cuba turn off,
oh,
traffic
yeah,
used
yeah.
to be traffic used to be long going down south, and all that traffic disappeared. And I'm saying those that is where I start to judge the what you call it, the traffic index, to see the economic activities in Trinidad. But
Correct,
these are
correct.
things can be studied. There are certain things. Say, for example, again, the sale of cement. That's another
Yeah,
index we can easily measure.
exactly. It tells you the amount of building startups.
Exactly. So there are several ways to collect information. When I was a head of treasury at Citibank, we say, guys, who it is really supplying foreign exchange to Trinidad? Yes, the oil sector, the Amocos at the time, and whatever, right? But we found out that fishermen supply a hell of a lot of foreign exchange. Fishermen, and we were able to determine 80% of the source of foreign exchange. In other words, 20% we couldn't identify. But these are things can be done by way of what you call uh, uh, direct data collection in a very structured manner. I don't know if you remember, Gary. We were wondering now who it is taking foreign exchange, and I said, look, it's right under the nose of the what you call it, the duty, the, the that division is right under the nose of the Minister of Finance. They can go and ask them who is importing things and find out who's buying
You,
and
you,
who's
you mean custom
from
duty?
the custom duty. So we have to be a little more smart in getting information to make decisions.
But where we have the people to do it, but they don't get the opportunity to do it because again, I'm telling you, when you're head of department or people who we have as heads of department and as a senior people who you're reporting to, when they don't have that know-how or that knowledge on how to get things done, it's the same thing happening with ministers.
Yes, I
They
don't
are
disagree.
they
I
if you
don't disagree
don't
with
drive
you.
it,
Sumant, I don't
if
disagree with
somebody at
you.
the head don't know the process,
Wait, I think we lost him.
yeah, or to
Someone, you're back.
drive the
Okay.
process, yeah, if they don't have the head to drive the process, and if the head does not know, then what happens?
Sumant, can you hear me?
It's the same old, and that is the whole problem in the country. The same old. Yeah, I'm hearing you. Yes,
No, I agree
yes,
with you. Listen, I agree with you, right? And I come back to the question is that we need intelligent people to drive these decisions. And sometimes the solutions are very, very simple, but they'll work for years and not solve it. Not solve it.
yeah, yeah,
And these are very, very simple solutions. But first of all, you have to define what exactly is the problem. If you cannot have a problem definition, then you don't know what
You
you're trying to solve.
cannot have no solution.
So wait, that's a
Yes,
good point, right?
You
For
have no
example,
solution.
let's just take a real example here. 94% of the food import, right?
yes,
You know, and that will drain a lot of foreign
Yeah.
exchange. So
correct.
why don't we
Yes.
have the ministries or the minister set some mandates, right? And say, hey, if we imported 94%, what part of that could be grown locally, right? And
And what time frame? More
correct.
important,
But we
Ken,
have
what
to set
time
the
frame?
mandate and try to work towards achieving that goal. Or else we spin it up in mud.
That is correct.
This is what
That
I'm
is
saying.
correct.
Exactly the point. It has to be driven by stuff. Okay, it's $7.4 billion. Round it off to $7 billion in imports. What we should be saying is that in 2026, I want this to fall to 6 billion. Okay, for me to
Correct.
say that 1 billion, what is it that I have to put in place? Or what are the things, items that I could grow, this, that, import, subsidy, or manufacture? Instead of importing dragon fruit and so on, I cut that off the list. Importing
Carrots.
tomatoes, that out the
Yeah.
list. These sort of things have to be said and
But
identified. And you every quarter you make sure that you know how much of that has been achieved. Because if you want to save $1 billion is 250 million every quarter. So you have to understand how is that going to be done.
But and you made a good point coming back to where you mentioned you need to have a well-seasoned team, right? Assigned to
All
get
the
that
time.
done, who would report on a quarterly basis, right? Based on the progress if we hitting the target or not, right? Or we need to go
Yeah,
back and
give you a
revise the
gap and
strategy.
yeah,
So you would need a
gap
well-seasoned
analysis.
team,
Mhm.
you know. But again, if people don't want to listen to good advice, then we spin it up in mud, right? But we
Yes.
have to get
Exactly the point.
serious.
Exactly
Can
the
I,
point.
if I can add how the
Yeah.
multinationals do it, right? First of all, their view is we are not managing people. We are not here to make people happy. If you get happy people in an employ, that's fine. But we are managing numbers. So when you go to an AGM, you can't say how happy my people are. Look how many got married.
Right.
So many of them. You have to say what has been your performance, what's your earning per share, and what is my share price. So
And
what
project
happens
this the next projection for next quarter as well.
exactly? So what happens? Say for example, for these multinationals in the head office, they'll say, look, we have to cut expenditure by 10%. And they ask each of the subsidiaries and so on, tell us how you're going to achieve it within the next few months. That is it. So where if we say now, we don't have foreign exchange, we run out of foreign exchange, we run out. Because whatever reserves we have, we already borrow up more than what we have. So when you prepare the balance sheet, we are negative, but that's fine. So we don't have any more foreign exchange. Every year, every month, we're getting perhaps a small surplus. How best can we spend it? And we have to say now, say for example, let's deal with this specific food import. Within 5 years, we have to drop import by 50%. Minister of Agriculture, we call all the major ministries that are engaged in it and say, look, give me your plan within 1 month, how you're going to achieve this. And as Sumant was saying, we look at all our imports and say, my God, we importing dry sorrel from Egypt. Do you know that is being sold? Dry sorrel from Egypt. Are we crazy? We are importing canned, that is bottle, not bottle, in the can, the paper can, from from Vietnam. Are we crazy? Have we gone mad? We have foreign exchange for that, and so much coconut in Trinidad. So we start listing out all those things. We put a negative list on it. Now, some people argue, hear what they argue, that we'll be flaunting or breaking the WTO organization. Do you think the Coconut Association of Vietnam is going to make a complaint against us? No, we don't have foreign exchange for it. So how governments will do it? Say you could import what you want, but I'm not giving you foreign exchange for that. That's what
That's my
Ghana and
philosophy.
all the African countries have done it. They say, I'm not giving you foreign
Yeah.
exchange. You could buy the biggest, most expensive Rolls Royce, but I am not giving you foreign exchange from the country's stock of foreign exchange to do that. However, you want to do it, you do it. So we can say now, how are we going to bring that down within 5 years? We are importing sugar, maybe 6 or 700 million dollars every year. Start back the industry. We're importing rice of X amount. We're supplying 10%. We want to be at 100% within 5 years. So, Ken, once there's a will, there's a way to get it done.
Right, that's correct, and I totally agree with you. But we need to see performance from these ministries also, right? You just can't sit around there and collect a paycheck and the
But
same old, right? The
but
prime
Ken,
minister said, yeah,
let me say something but you in there, Ken. I'm sorry to interrupt you there. You have the same people who have been there 15, 20, 25 years, and they have not changed anything. Do you expect any changes from the ministry side?
right. But as the prime minister said, she wants to see performance, right?
How are
And
you
she's
going
going
to
to
measure
hold.
that?
Well, again,
Well,
that's where we have to set the mandates, right?
so
You have to set
they don't
mandates and
have the
work towards it.
mechanisms. They don't have the mechanisms, one. They don't have the policies, two. They don't have the systems in place, three. So none of these things exist. And on top of that, you put governance as a fourth layer. So same old
So Matt,
continues.
look, as Vay
Don't
just say,
expect no new
as
results.
Vay just mentioned, we importing dry soil from Egypt, right?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
is so hard to
yeah,
produce
yeah.
that locally and have a team or program where we pushing and promoting local? Yes, I understand we have to fix the flooding problem also. There are farmers who are being inundated, right? Um, and there's a lot of issues with infrastructure and stuff.
But you see,
So
the thing about you empowering the locals, that is posing a threat to those who are governing the things right now. You understand?
And
So they wouldn't want that.
Gary, they are the ones who are getting the foreign exchange, who have gotten forex
Right, and
exchange
then
for
they're
the
going to have
past
the
10
best
years.
car, and the children going to have the best school. In the meantime, the fools thinking about race and not realizing that it's they that are the ones that are suffering. And this is the government that's really trying to restructure things that you yourself can benefit. I mean, if you really understand
and
what the prime minister is trying to do, she's trying to bring the
correct.
resources directly at your doorstep,
Correct. And Gary, we started
in
to
the
talk
palm of your
about,
hands.
yeah. And talking about the flooding, right? We started talking to the farmers in San Grande, right? And this is not just in San Grande, but this is all over the place. Flooding is a major problem, especially in the low-lying areas. And I think we need to focus also on delivering solutions, upgrading the infrastructure, right? But if we need to seriously cut this food import bill, we have to get serious, and we have to look at a
But
comprehensive
the
plan.
only way you're going to do it is to firstly, you have to deal with the infrastructural issues. You can't have people working so hard, planting their garden, and then flooding come and
Uh,
wash it out.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
that is
And
a
what?
Absolutely.
must. That has to be first priority when you're building a house. You lay the foundation. So this is the foundational things you have to deal with that flooding issue. Create the water retention like we've been talking and preaching here about, and you've been offering all your technical skills to assist them. And this seems to be dragging their feet, but in the same time, this is what we need fixed.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
Gary,
Media
I'll tell
last
you,
me.
Gary, I'll tell you the problem too. You see, the decision makers, they are not affected at the moment. So they don't have the necessary emergency to get things done. And unless it
There
starts
is no
hitting,
urgency. They are comfortable, and what they
yes,
don't realize is that we have to think as a country, as a whole, in the
that
sense that we can't be thinking to be in self-centered type of mentality. Okay,
right.
so right, things are good with me, so forget everybody else. Things are good with me within my 10 feet wall, and I'm good. I have security, but you don't have to come out those 10 feet wall. So what we have to need to do is a whole of country approach in thinking that that we restructure things, because this is what we need to do. Because if we don't do that, we will always remain under the master feet. Because
Right.
we are independent.
Right. So let us look at how, because I wrote an article about, mostly 4 or 5 years ago, saying that farmers' time has come. Farmers' time has come, because I was predicting this problem with regards to foreign exchange, and therefore the question of food security and so on must be a priority. The
Trinidad and
farmers
Tobago
have,
must build itself, Guyana must build itself, and the
yes,
rest of the Caribbean must build itself to a position that they can have a voice, because right now they have no voice.
well, the farmers have to get together. The farmers have to get together and say what they want. Now, if they don't, if they don't know what they want, then something is wrong. But they have to get together. There are several farming associations, like the milk farmers, the this farmers, cocoa farmers, sugarcane farmers, no longer there, but
Dairy and so
cassava
on.
and dairy farmers. So they have to get together. They have to get together, and this is where they have to organize themselves and drop it on the laps of the Ministry of Finance, of Agriculture, the Prime Minister, and so on. Say, this
We
is the
were we,
help we
we was
want.
trying to do that in Sandy Grande, and we got undermined. But I won't say who and how. But
Right.
we haven't given up. Because we offered ourselves to assist the farmers and bring everybody to there, but there are certain gangsters up in that area trying to control things for their own interests. But
Yes,
we will get to
Yeah.
that eventually.
no, there will,
But
yeah, Gary, there will be obstacles, but again, it's a question of survival for the farmers. So each of them now has to be a sort of a pioneer in that push. They can't give up, because nothing is gained by just asking. I'm sorry, you have to fight for what you want. You have to fight for what you want. And once you believe in that fight, you can't give up. 1 year, you
So,
can't give up. You have to
so,
keep, whether by way of letters, by way of marches, by way of groups getting together and going in front and protesting and so on. Sorry, that's the way the world changes.
so,
That's the way
yes,
the
yes, agreed,
so
agreed, agreed,
Wade, I
agreed.
also think we have to handle it from the top down, right? Why don't
Yeah,
we
well,
look at the food import bill and say, hey, are we going next year? Are we going next fiscal year? Are we going to increase this from 7.4 to 8.4 billion, or is it going to drop from 7.4 to 6.4 billion? Right?
correct.
And that is
Who
something
is
that
that?
we have to, right. So that
Who
is a,
has to? Who has to answer that question, Ken? Is the
well,
people you nominate as a
well,
minister of agriculture,
right.
these type of things, or your
And it's
advisors, the
not,
consultants? Hold them
right.
accountable.
But Sumat, we're not asking in a hostile way, right? We're
No,
asking
no,
in a
no.
way as to try to solve a problem here, because
That's right.
it is affecting the country. It is affecting our foreign reserve exchange, right? And why do we need to import? There's a lot of stuff that Vedi mentioned. We could put it on negative list. We don't need dry soil, right? But again, I think if we work with the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure Drainage Division and bring the Agricultural Division, we hold a meeting and say, hey, what is the underlying problem here? Problem here is flooding, right? Farmers depending on they're growing their crops and they're being inundated every year, and then they have to rely on a subsidy, right? This shouldn't be the case. Let's see if we can fix that problem. We started having the talks in Sandy Grande, and as Gary mentioned, I spoke to about 3 or 4 farmers representatives, and they totally collectively represent over 110 farmers, right? And it's the same problem they have in year round. One guy mentioned for about 40 years, we've stuck with the same problem and no solutions. So, but I told them, I said, look, we're going to keep these conversations going, and I have some solutions. But as Gary said, there's some issues there to iron out, right? Before we get on the ground there. But coming back to the problem, we need to set mandates and we need to work towards that. That's the only way we're going to achieve something, right? Positive. Because this food import bill cannot run away from us and inflate to now close to 10 billion, and we importing stuff that we could grow locally.
that is true, Ken. But how I look at it, why the sugar industry lingered on so long is because they had a guaranteed market, and a guaranteed price. And this is where the challenge now comes in for government to set up the agro processing facilities and add value to whatever raw materials that the farmers could provide. Now, a farmer feels uncomfortable when he leaves the field and have to put on a nice clothes and go and meet somebody in Port of Spain to discuss things and ideas, right? Even to take market produce to the market. So
Yeah.
if you now have a guaranteed market where a government truck comes in every Wednesday and pick up your produce in the village and give you a chit that you could deposit in the bank. You see, we have to organize farming in a very structured manner to make sure that the farmers' time is well spent in the fields to produce, and then the distribution and marketing, etc., be handled at a separate level. If you look at the model that Uttar Pradesh has, what they have is district farming. District farming. If a district is specialized in certain, for example, jaggery, for example, the black rice, and other produce, right? The government said we will provide the technical support that is for the growing so that yields and so on comes up. We'll provide subsidized fertilizer, etc., etc. You produce, and we will help you now if there's any need for what you call packaging or agro processing and so on. We'll help you set up those facilities, and at the end of the day, we'll help you market. And I think I'd mentioned before they were producing black rice, and they rebranded as Buddha rice because that was what Buddha was supposed to have ate when he broke his fast. He ate black rice, and that has become very popular in the Buddhist countries. So there are little tricks and so on that needs to be helped by professional people. By professionals,
Yes, but
don't expect a farmer to do the chain right through till the end.
no,
Yeah, there's
we don't
time.
expect that, Wade. But you know one
He
thing,
doesn't have that time. That's a waste of his time too.
yeah. Also, the farmer is crying out on the fields. He's asking for something that the government could solve, which is the flooding problem, right?
Agree,
We could
agree.
give him fertilizer, we could give him all that
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
in a
No,
nice
no, no.
model, right? But when he
Ken, your
plants
your
that crops,
production, your
it's
production
gone.
facilities is first. I agree with that.
Correct.
I I,
So
I fully agree.
you can't put them up in a tree and then cut down the tree. So we have to look at the underlying problem here affecting all of them. Now with climate change, that challenge is going to increase. It's not going to get better anytime soon, right?
Mm.
I met with, 100+ farmers in San Grande who were represented by 3 or 4 persons. They came up with the same complaint. Hey, the flooding problem is affecting us. We've lost so many crops, right? I mean, and I reassure them that we're going to continue these conversations. I assure Gary and everyone that hey, I'm here to provide my services. We are planning to go do a field trip and stuff. There are some things that they mention off the bat. And look, we did this through a video conference, right? So we could be in any part of the world today and use the technology. And I told them, I said, look, you have my number. Once there's an issue, we can do a video conference. I can see exactly what's happening and so forth. But again, we have to solve basic problems here. We need to
But
get all the
Ken,
ministries.
from what I gathered over the last conversation, that is an area that you're an expert in, right? And
Correct.
from
But
what I understand from Gary, you all would have located a particular geographic area where subject to flooding, and you already would have developed a remedial programs for it. So I think at that stage is to find out how much it's costing and drop it on the lap of the Ministry of Finance and copy the Prime Minister on it. But you have to go a little further to say that look, by this solution you are going to increase yields to X amount and put it in some numbers that people will say, wait a minute, if this is going to save us so much with regards to our food import. So everything has to be translated at the end of the day, the economic impact and the social impact. The social
Yes.
impact meaning to say so many farmers will be employed throughout the year, etc. So
But
I think you all have reached very far.
So
that is
I'm going to
quite.
what I'm going to do is I would like to ask you to accompany Ken in one of these meetings because he's about to make some attempt again in a couple weeks. So I'm going to have him meet with various ministers, and I would like to have you there to give the
But
economic
let's
side of
let, let's
the
let's go
benefit.
with let's go with problem definition, which you all are very comfortable with. Let's go with a solution, which Ken, I think, has articulated many times. Let's work out some sort of pricing. Let's work out some sort of timing. Well, let's also work out what machinery and so on is required to provide the solution, so that when we go to the ministry, we'll say, look, we need your help on this.
And not only that, the basic thing, the outcome of all of this is how much we can save by undertaking this activity or these activities. That is well translated into number, dollars and cents.
Agreed.
That is-
Agreed.
Right.
That is,
And
Agreed.
but you see,
Wade,
guys, I mean, I'm not trying to put a spoke in anybody's wheel, but ministries and so on, ministers, I keep on saying these things have to be driven from the minister has to know exactly what he or she is doing, or his advisors. Now, if his advisor sitting in the office of the police, how the heck they going to know what is the problem in Lengua or down Oropouche, in Lagoon or down in Woodland and so on when they're sitting there, but in the offices in Port of Spain?
So,
They are
Sumant-
advisors.
Sumant Wade
They
made
are
a good point.
advisors.
Yeah, Sumant Wade made a good point, right? We have to get the report in their hands, and we have to CC the Prime Minister on it. Because if you want to get political here, correct me if I'm wrong. Sandy Grande is a marginal constituency, right?
Mhm.
And if 100 plus persons are crying out for help, don't you think it's wise to go out there and provide that assistance? Not just from the political perspective, but look at the goal that we want to achieve here in terms of the food import bill, right?
Social
We want to
side of
cut
life.
that, so we have to get serious all around. We have to look at the win-win situation of what we want to achieve, you know. And I know we're dealing with politicians, right? And we're dealing with a marginal constituency. So again, that has to be echoed and whispered into the ears of the minister and I mean to say the party executives and so forth, right? This has to be a priority, and then we can move beyond Sandy Grande to other areas where farmers are affected.
Well,
Yeah,
Ken, you have my number. I'm normally available in the evenings, but because my harvest has started, you guys are welcome to come and help me grind the cane and boil. But I'll be available in the evening, so you let me know. You have my number. Am I right?
I believe so. I think I have your number, but I'll check again. If not, just WhatsApp me or Gary, and he'll forward it to me.
Gary, just WhatsApp and give me Ken's number as well. So Ken, just whenever you arrange a meeting, whenever you arrange a meeting, just give me a few days' notice, and I'll make sure I come up and meet with you all.
Not a problem.
I'll be delighted to help you all put together numbers. And as Suman said, data is very important in terms of the cost, in terms of the benefits, etc. And make
Definitely.
it simple in terms of just a simple PowerPoint presentation that the minister can't say he don't have time to read. It'll be easy to read.
Well, the good thing about that Wade,
We
is
get
that
straight
we
to the
have
point.
we get straight to the point, and I want to actually show the minister a project which we have actually implemented, right? That solved a very difficult problem, right? And it's something that could be easily scaled. So based on the cross sections of the drains that we're dealing with there, right? That's why I need to do a site visit. I'll be able to now scale this and then price this accordingly. Now, if it's a difficult size site on accessibility is limited, etc., that will all have to be factored in.
Right. So so in terms of what machinery is required, how long, how many days, and so on. So we don't have to work out the cost for that. He will know what it costs because there's a question.
Numbers. Just give the numbers like X amount of excavators, X amount of tractors, and so on.
That's correct. That's correct. Now,
Not a problem.
I don't know if you all remember when Caroni was in operation. They had a division now with necessary machinery to go and help farmers. So hopefully, something like that could be restarted, where government ministry, whether the Ministry of Agriculture or Works or whatever, they could have a set of machinery set up. And this is where
that is all it is. Call it tractor pool division. That if you want the
Right,
lands
right.
plowed,
But
you're going to pay a minimal fee, and you are scheduled to, and so on. So they have your 2 acre plowed and so on.
yeah,
That
but Suman, what I'm going a little beyond that. We could set
okay.
up about four areas in Trinidad where these pools exist, and we can
Oh
ask the
yes,
Indian government under their 300 million promise to us to provide
plows stuff.
that information,
So get
to
some
provide that
tractors and
machinery
plows.
for us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They
But you
they
see,
just sold Burkina Faso over 400 tractors.
yeah. I saw that.
The
And
machinery and equipment will come in handy. Definitely.
yeah. But you
Yes.
see again, you need to have that bind from the minister, from the people high up, because once you don't remember, the government only has to be an enabler. And this is what we're asking them to do. Just assist us to enable the farmers so that they can take it from their farming level upwards to produce what they have to produce.
Which the
You don't
people
have
are
to.
absolutely willing and committed to doing. They just need that assistance, and it's
Yes,
frustrating
that is
them.
the enabling environment. You, the government, just need to enable, help us along the way. We were going to put out the expenditure and so on, but when you have access roads, for example, building a little bridge over a culvert, these kind of things, government has to step in there. No, I don't know. I am I am maybe different, but what I'm seeing is a lot of photo ops from the government ministers and very little otherwise, especially in the active, things that the active ministries, because agriculture is not one ministry, and it incorporates local government will have a role to play, drainage will works and drainage will have a role to play, marketing will have a role to play. So all these things, if it's not
Well, the thing
coordinated,
about it is, Suman, is me and Ken have been making the recommendations. Ken is helping me with the design, and I've been submitting it. So we sent a lot of information and recommendations, but they also know that the government has to be able to accumulate the funding. So that could be part of the delay in
yeah,
moving
but
forward with some things. But the only thing about it, the important thing is the communication. The response to the communication
ah,
right now
ah,
is what we
ah,
Yeah.
need to know how we stand, and
yeah. So there's a lot of coordination among the ministries have to take place as well. Because when Ken is going to do his presentation, it will not only affect Ministry of Agriculture, it may affect local government as well.
That's correct.
Our
That's correct.
works and
There's an
drainage.
overlap.
So they
There's an
have to
overlap
have
in different ministries there.
you have to have representatives or advisors from the various ministries be sitting into that meeting. This is what.
So what I'm going to do is, as soon as you and Ken can get back down there, I'm going to start moving things to see how we can get.
Yeah, it have to be coordinated and among the various ministries so that Ken doesn't have to go and do 3 meetings when he could do 1 meeting with everybody in there.
Definitely,
Go
because there's an overlap, and
Well, that's exactly what we.
and we could pull the funding from
to do.
different ministries.
That will be their problem. Let them sort that aspect out. But we telling them what the problem is, how it can be solved, and what the cost of it, approximately the cost of it,
Correct.
and this is the returns, how much we can save in the food import bill. That's
Correct.
basically 4 things. So
And we have a local government minister that's well knowledgeable of the issues, and
she's active.
we just have to
She's
show the
active.
technical. Yeah, she's active. She's on the ground, but I'm saying that she's very much aware of what the issue is there. She's fully engaged, and all I want to do is provide her with the technical recommendation.
Yeah, I think
All right, guys, so we can wrap it up.
Yeah, thanks so much,
Definitely.
guys. Yeah,
So,
good chatting.
Vid, you have anything else to want to add at this point?
No, wonderful. Thanks so much, Ken. So I'm available. Just give me 2 days notice. I'll be delighted to work with you all because we have to. I would call it at this stage is save Trinidad and Tobago. We need to save ourselves.
Definitely.
Well, I
Definitely.
mean, I got
Definitely.
involved because I was intended to plan a rescue mission, and that is my
Yeah,
objective.
because
And I
my
always
wife
made
and
this
her,
election a rescue mission.
my wife and I just spent a few weeks. Well, she spent about 3 months in Edmonton, and she said that's not for people. Yeah. So where are we going? We at this stage we don't have anywhere to go. So
Yeah.
let's make Trinidad a better place, and I think we need to emphasize that to the government. Look, we are all here to help. Nobody's looking for anything special, but let's coordinate and get things done. And if the Indian offer is 300 million, how much of that is accessed? Who is accessing it? Who was presented? So we need to get that
And then we
activated.
want to make sure it's properly utilized and the money is not stolen and absorbed in a way that
Exactly.
is not effective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This
Because
is the
when
point.
Sumant,
is the
you will confirm this point.
Because if that has to happen under our watch, then I don't want no part of anything.
Exactly.
Definitely.
So, Sumant, you will know when you get funding from all these other IMF and all. Most of it goes out in consultancy fees.
Consultancy fees, yes, correct. Because I used to deal with all of them in the prime ministers, all the
And people bring their
UNESCO,
friends and family for consultancy.
Yeah,
No,
consultancy fees.
they're consultants, Gary. So when a UN is doing a project, more than is administrative costs carries a lot of funds with it. The
Well, I think we have a lot of
Canadian
people here
CEDA,
can wipe out that administrative cost because of between.
yeah, but a lot of the funds goes back into the organization who is lending you the money. Whether
Yeah,
it's
it don't come to Trinidad.
No, they don't. They have these things. Look, all these consultants have their module. It's already written before they come.
Exactly.
It's already,
Exactly.
trust me, I know that for a fact because I used to deal with the EU and OAS and CEDA, Canadian Bank, the Canadian Development Fund and what have you, and Netherlands and whatnot. They all say they're sending the consultants, they come and have a good time here. They already have their project written out already, the solution, long before. They just update their figures, to the country specific. Like if it's Trinidad, they put in the figures for Trinidad. If it's Ghana, they put in the figures for Ghana. They tell you they're doing the country. These are the guys who got the big bucks. And I know I've been dealing with these guys. I know their modus operandi, man.
But Sumant, we in the third world will keep remaining the third world. We are suckers to be fooled.
I don't know, but I figure I have to go and buy my own island in the Bahamas somewhere.
Anyhow, guys, good night.
Yeah.
Appreciate the
Good
time.
night, thank you,
Thanks
Vade,
again.
for taking the time, and we'll talk to you during the week.
Vade will be
Yeah,
talking so
thanks.
much. Gary, have a good night, guys. Everyone,
Good
take care.
night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, take care.
Voice, we can't be in the capital. I tell you, carry the can't be in the capital. Who is that? Hello from the capital. Think don't in the heart of the carnival. You students of this, I cannot erase all these memories we create from the Lord. Hello from the capital. History will bring.
Unfortunately, it's going to be the worst that we've seen this season, which, as you know, has been a bad one. The good news is coming on the weekend, so if you have the opportunity to hibernate, you may want to do just that. Look at the number of extreme weather warnings that we have as far as the cold is concerned. All the big cities in this, 15 to 40 degrees below zero on Saturday and Sunday. So let's go through some of these numbers. It all comes down. This is coming directly from the North Pole. Chicago, you've got the core of it on Saturday. D.C., New York, you've got the core of it on Sunday. These numbers do not include the wind. wind, which will be significant. So let's go through that with the pulse of snow coming through. 10 to 15 to 20 miles per hour come tomorrow morning. Then into Saturday, we're looking at 30 to 40, 50 miles per hour into Sunday morning as well. So that could take down some power lines as well. And we'll see a pulse of snow, maybe just enough to shovel and maybe brighten things up in the big cities, but it will be bitterly cold. Tony?
All right, Rob, thank you very much.